slides. So last year I did a leadership lecture, and this year I thought I would just change it up a bit. I am a huge, huge Wizard of Oz fan. And I think there are so many messages in that movie that we don't get when we're younger. And as we grow, we think, wow, there's so many things that we can learn from this. Now, this is my 40-year anniversary of graduating. And I have to confess, and I tell every class this, when I was a freshman, I flunked sociology. Just saying. I had to go to summer school and pay my own way. Guess what? I never flunked again. But I think when you go from a high school, and like I was a big fish in I went to Doherty, it's closed now. It's a Catholic high school in Northeast Philadelphia. And there were 2,000 in my graduating class, and I was like one of the top students without studying. And I thought, oh, I could do the same thing here. Ooh, I learned. I couldn't do that. And my mother and father gave me the great lesson of having to pay my own way, so I did not ever flunk another class. But I tell that story because many of you, I hear, had exams today, this morning and this afternoon. I'm hoping that you did not flunk. But do know that sometimes the lessons we learn from the mistakes and the things that we've done wrong in life are the best lessons that we can ever learn. You don't often learn from the things that you do right. But when you do make a little mistake or you have a little hiccup in whatever it is that you do, you never do that again because you remember it again and again and again. So for nursing, we have to have some objectives. We're going to talk a little bit about how you're going to build your success. And each one of you is going to build it differently. Some of you are going to go into pediatrics. Some of you are going to go into NICU. I heard somebody's got a NICU job at UPMC. Somebody else has got a job in a step-down unit at Mayo Clinic. There's going to be a few of you that go into my passion, which is emergency and trauma, which I did for most of my career. So we're going to talk a little bit about how you're going to get there. And guess what? You're going to hit obstacles. And thank yourself that you get those obstacles, because those obstacles are going to make you a more well-rounded person. Someone said to me, oh my goodness, you're so great at being the chief nursing officer. How did you learn to do it? And I said, from being a frontline night shift staff nurse for 20 years. Because I know every trick in the book. I know what nurses want. I know how to speak to nurses on the front line. And if you're a leader, that's what you need to do. You need to learn how to connect. So I didn't go straight into a leadership position. And then we're going to talk about how we inspire your passion. I actually was given a leadership lecture to the nursing leaders in Pennsylvania. And I talked about being a little young whippersnapper ED nurse. And you know, we ED nurses pride ourselves on move those patients. We don't have time to give them pillows and blankets. What do you mean we got to give them a call light? This is back in the 70s. Can't get away with that now. And we had a director that used to come and give all the pillow and the blanket. And the ED would be going crazy at plenty of people in the waiting room, some nuts going on. And I'd say to her, you're really giving a pillow and a blanket? Can't you just take somebody's vital signs or do something like that? And she goes, no, it'll make them more comfortable while they wait. So we were laughing in the lecture when I was talking about it. And don't you know that my director was sitting in the back of the room. And she goes, and that's absolutely right. She's telling the truth. She used to do that. But we turn and we learn. And, back in the 70s, we didn't have the same thing with customer service. And we obviously didn't have the same thing with the opioid crisis because we caused, a little bit of an issue here in the United States. When you think of the Yellow Brick Road, what do you think? There's an Elton John song. You think of the Wizard of Oz. Did you all know that there's a horror movie called The Yellow Brick Road? Yeah, some of you know that? Oh. So I have a little trivia questions in here. Anybody know where the first Yellow Brick Road was? The real Yellow Brick Road that really is who this guy made the movie about? No? Nobody have any? So he was a student in New York, and it was in Peekskill, New York. And what the students used to say is, follow the Yellow Brick Road up and find the answer from whoever was in that building. So that's really how the whole story for the Wizard of Oz came, from this yellow road in Peekskill, New York. Just a couple little trivia questions for you there. So, do all of you have a dream? I hope so. If you don't, you better quick get one, because many of you are graduating and you're going to want to, go into the nursing profession as professionals and move on. Where do you want to go? And who do you want to be? What type of nurse, besides a fabulous, great Villanova nurse? And think about all the wonderful Villanova leaders that are out there, that are there to help you, because we're there. People reach out to me still from the class that I graduated with. Dr. Moriarty graduated with me, Helene. And there's still other people that reach out to all of us that we graduated with or graduated a couple years before us or after us, and they say, hey, I see you're a Nova grad. Do you have a connection here? And really, it's about the connections that you made. Do you all have somebody to help you get there? Right now, you have fabulous professors that'll help get you through school. But who are you going to keep in contact with when you graduate to help you move forward? Is it somebody you met in your clinical arenas? Is it somebody you met when you worked in the summer, maybe? Is it one of your professors? Because I know I'm probably speaking for them, but they would love for you to reach out to them and tell them what you're doing or what you might need help with. Because that's what we like, and that's what leaders do. They build leaders, and they make people, better at what they do. But no, when you get into that strange new world of hospital, home care, it's no longer that you have to do 2 years of med-surg. You had to do 2 years of med-surg when I graduated from nursing school in the 70s, 77. And I was an anomaly because I went right into the emergency department. And that was like with a bachelor's degree. Because trust me, in 1977, we were not well received. Because the diploma nurses knew everything and us, but we bachelor nurses knew nothing. But somehow I was able to break that mold, and that worked out fine for me. But now people are going into home care direct. They're going into skilled care facilities. They're going into, I hear somebody going into a NICU. We hired someone in our NICU, but you just have to be sure that you have the right orientation. But it's very different than school. And it's very different than your clinicals at school, because it's 12 hours long. I'm a firm believer, and I do not like 12-hour orientations. I think after 8 hours, your mind turns off, and you're like totally overloaded. So when I was director of an ED, I made the nurses that were new orient for the first month 8 hours, 5 days a week. Some people wouldn't take the job for that because they wanted to do their 12-hour shifts. But I'm telling you, they did not learn, those that did 12-hour. And I actually allowed one person to do 12-hour shifts. And after a month, the nurses were all saying, she's not cutting it, she needs to go. I said, put her on 8-hour shifts for a month, she'll be fine. Which we did, and she was fine. So we did the 8s, then the 10s, and then she eventually got to 12. There's a lot to learn. And you're going to have, some of you may have your career mapped out. But even if you have it mapped out, you're going to have a crash landing someplace, and you're going to be like, I hope that there's going to be somebody here to mentor me and to make me as successful as I can be. And trust me, you're not going to be in Kansas anymore, like Villanova. It's not going to be there to nurture you. And that's sad to say. There are some organizations that will welcome you and nurture you, and there are others that aren't. So when you interview for your job, you have to ask, what kind of support are you going to provide for me? What is my orientation going to be like? What happens if I slip? Who's going to be there to help catch me? What are they going to do for you? Because they're going to ask you what you're going to do for them. Because you want to be sure that it's a good match for you as well as a good match for the organization. So it's always good to take a look at the organization's mission, vision, and values so that you can be sure that those mission, vision, and values align with yours. So these are just a few of the things, and we're going to talk about them as we go across. What it is that you need to get you down and through your road to leadership. And you start at the beginning. That's what Dorothy did in the Yellow Brick Road, right? She started at the beginning. And we said where the Yellow Brick Road was in New York, and they did. They started at the beginning, and they walked up. As I said before, you're not in Kansas anymore, and that's what she says to her good old friend Toto. Now remember Toto, because we're going to talk about him and the importance of him. When did the Wizard of Oz debut? Anybody know? Go ahead. 1939? Yes. That was the beginning. And what else? There was another date too, where it came to the television. Come on in, come down. You all who are late have to stay an hour later. No, you don't really. Come on back. Come on back. So it did. 1939, you're absolutely right. But in 1956, it became onto the television. So again, just some little trivia that I think is fun. So Dorothy started at the beginning, and each one of you are going to start at the beginning, and I'm sorry. For the men in the room, if you like to wear the red slippers, that's fine too. I used to have a program when I was at Doylestown that everybody who went the extra mile got a little sneaker pin, and then we had the next thing that they went was a red high heel, because I always wore high heels to work back then. I'm a little older, I wear flats now. So we had a red high heel, thanks for going to new heights. So the one guy won the second thing, and I thought, oh, I can't be giving him a high heel. So I found something bananas for the best of the bunch. And he came in my office, he says, why I don't get the high heel? And I go, well, because I thought you would be. He goes, no, that's how it goes. It goes in the ladder. Okay, I'll give you the high heel. You got it. But hey, listen, there's some fun, funky shoes for guys these days too, right? We're going to talk about the people that you're going to meet along the way. And you've already started to meet people along the way, your friends here, your colleagues here, your professors here. But when you go to a new position and a new job, you're going to meet new people. And what are they going to do for you? First person we're going to talk about is Glinda. Now think about Glinda. She found herself a little opportunity when little Dorothy just found herself dropped there, right? Because Dorothy wanted to go home. Now, we all know the end of the movie, right? So we all know that Glinda knew the way for her to get home. Well, we all know the way for you to become excellent, fabulous nurses. Why don't we tell you that on the first day of nursing school? Would you believe us? Yeah, you're going to say, yeah, because you don't want to take all those tests, I get it. But no, there's some of it is about being the lived experience and having the shared experience with your colleagues. So that's why she doesn't tell everybody. Her motive is that she knows that there's some power in those ruby slippers. And I'm going to say the ruby slippers is like the Oz, the golden goose that people are looking for. She knows that. She tells Dorothy that they're going to help her along the way. So what helps you along the way? Courses, hopefully lectures like this. Tests so people can check your knowledge and whatever. But there are the things that are your milestones along the way. And your mentors. Do you have a program here so when the freshmen come in, there's a senior that mentors them? Yeah. So there's somebody there that helps you. And if your mentors don't match, it's not because the mentor's not good or you have an issue. Usually it's because there's two different personalities, and you got to just change mentor. And there's nothing wrong with that. I do a lecture for those of you who go to SNAP on the different personality styles. That's really kind of fun. And you learn about, it's not really you, it's just that your values and the thing that makes you tick is a little different than somebody else. So you're going to meet your munchkins. These are your new friends and colleagues. So they went to Widener, and they went to Penn, and anybody Penn graduates, Penn, they make the best nurses, they think. Well, Penn, I will tell you, and I love Penn. I work there in emergency trauma. I taught some of their nurses, and I have nothing against their graduates. But when I went to go for my master's, I applied at Penn. I also applied at Penn for my undergrad. When I applied to Penn for my undergrad, it was $3,000 for the whole year. Do not laugh. In 1973. 73. $3,000 the whole year, both semesters. All right? I'm like, oh my gosh, I made $2.50 an hour as a nursing assistant. How am I going to do this? So I'm fixing my money together. I'm like, oh, I can't do this. I got accepted at Gwinnett. Gwinnett had a 2-on-2 program. Their tuition was right around $25. I could do that, but then I'd have to get a car. And then Villanova was $2,800 for the whole year. $5,000 if I wanted to live here. I wasn't living here because I had to work. So 3 of the guys in our neighborhood went to Villanova. I could get a ride with them, or I could take the train. So that's how I ended up at Villanova, because it was only $2,800 a year. So can you imagine? I could have been at Penn. I could have been one of those smart nurses, right? But I will tell you, as a leader in the nursing community, and I say this when I teach and I speak to the Penn students, because I think it's important for them to know. They are very, very cerebral. I guess that's the best way for me to think about it. They think of everything from a research perspective, and I'm not saying that that's wrong, but when you're trying to understand food, water, shelter, there's seats down here. You can come here. It won't disturb me, really. Come on down. Your price is right. You win. Come on. When you are trying to understand food, water, shelter, and you like don't even know where the bathroom is on your unit, that cerebral thinking sometimes is not always the best. It'll catch up. You'll catch up maybe by the time you're a nurse for 5 years. But Villanova nurses come out, and I'm partial because I did graduate from there, but I think I'm also a realist. Villanova nurses come out very well-rounded. They come out with just the right amount of questioning and evidence-based and understanding the research, but they come out with some really, really practical, great understanding of what's going on with their patients and what they don't know. And that's what's really important, because you're not going to see everything in your career. I've been a nurse 40 years. I still have not seen everything. When I was at Penn, and we had to Craig somebody, which is when somebody had a problem with their airway, and there was a trauma nurse that was there for 20 years. And here I am, like I was just there a year, and I'm saying, oh, let me get the stuff. And she's going, how do you know that? Well, I saw that years ago, and we had to do one. She was a trauma nurse 20 years and never had done it. So don't think that you have to know everything. What you need to know is what you don't know, and which friend you can call. What's that show that you have called Phone a Friend? You know, is that still around with Regis Philbin? Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? Yeah, that's right, see? Phone a friend. That's what you want to do. Then you're going to have more munchkins. How do you think it feels when you come here first to Villanova as a freshman? They have all kinds of things that say, welcome freshmen, right? To your families, to you. It feels good, doesn't it? You think, oh my gosh, that's me, here I am, wow. And then all of a sudden, before you turn around, you're a senior, and then you're going to be out 40 years, you'll really be questioning. But there are some places that when new nurses come, they put signs to welcome them. They make them feel really, really good. But unfortunately, there are some bullies out there, and I have no tolerance for that. When I became chief nurse, they asked me, what makes me tick? As I had open forums with the staff. And I said, oh, I don't know, you know, great nursing care and, you know, nurses that grow and own their practice and, you know, want to become autonomous and really make a difference. And they go, well, like, what really pisses you off? And I said, oh, I know that right off. 3 things. Anybody that's mean or nasty to a patient, I have no tolerance for that. I am not saying that the patient is allowed to be mean or nasty to you, but I will teach you the skills that you need to know to de-escalate that patient and move away and get help. People who are mean or nasty to each other, no tolerance, absolutely, for that. And a blatant breaking of a hospital policy. Guess what? Everything else we can fix, because your patient's going to fall. When the patients fall, I get a call for every patient fall, because I want to know about it. I want to know what was needed that the nurses didn't have to care for that patient. Sometimes the person forgot to put the fall alarm back on. But did they forget to put the fall alarm on because they said, I'm not putting that fall alarm on? Or did they forget because somebody else was ringing the bell because they had a, you know, or there was a fall in another room or something else was going on? There's a reason. And when you can connect with people and understand those things, that's what really makes a difference. And that's what makes nurses really want to go. When you see those bullies, there's onlookers that are watching what happens. We had a nurse working in our ICU that she had been a nurse for 35 years. And she was a good nurse, but. So I say we have no but nurses at Einstein Montgomery. That means they're a good nurse, but they don't talk nice to the patients. They're a good nurse, but they don't share their information. They're a good nurse, but whatever. We have none of that. We want to share, we want to grow, we want everybody to grow together. Well, this nurse got angry with the patient family. She pulled the gloves off and said, I had enough of you, and threw the gloves in the trash can. So I'm making my rounds at 5:30 in the morning, and the family comes and says, AnnMarie, can I see you? And I said, yeah, it was in ICU. Now, I know all the ICU patients and all the NICU patients in my hospital. They're because they're my most vulnerable. I need to know them. I need to know what's going on. I need to know what the nurses need, and I need to be there. They have directors that also, but there's things that sometimes the chief nurse can bring. So I went, and she told me about what this nurse did. I said, oh, I am so, so sorry. Let me look into that, and I'll get back to you. But I really, really apologize. You know, how do you explain that, right? I'm thinking in my Lord, please, Lord, let that not be what she did. So I bring her over, and I said, hey, Connie, you had an interaction with a patient that really didn't quite go so well last night. The patient was telling me about it. Tell me what happened. Well, she said, She was just getting on my nerves. I had enough of her. I threw the gloves and said, that's it. I'm like, ooh, okay. Now, the whole unit knows that she did this because she's not quiet. She's telling everybody, I just was having enough of that. She's going around, right? I said, Con, you got to come into my office. We have to talk about it. So I said, tell me why. Well, I didn't have this, and I didn't know what to do about that. And I said, huh. So it sounds to me like you don't feel like you had the proper education or knowledge or training to be a charge nurse. How about this? I'm going to send you to education for a charge nurse class. I'm going to pull you out of being a charge nurse for the next month till you get those competencies, and we'll help you learn. Oh, I am not going. I don't need to know anything. I quit. I said, okay. You're not going to try to keep me? I said, no. If you want to quit, you can quit. That's fine. So she came back the next day, and she said, well, maybe I don't want to quit. And I said, well, then you have to go to the charge nurse classes. Well, no, I don't. I said, excuse me? I think I'm the chief nurse. On my badge, it says it. And you had an interaction with the patient, and you and the patient told the same story about what happened. And you told me that you didn't think you had the education, so it's my responsibility to be sure you have that education so that doesn't happen again. Okay, well, then I'm going to quit. I said, well, then you quit, and don't tell me you're not going to quit again. But what's really sad is I said to her, have you ever been told about your rude and abrupt attitude? Now, I was working at Einstein Montgomery for about 3 weeks when this happened. And she said, no. I said, well, you have one. And I said, and until you fix that, you're not going to get any better, any further. You're going to stay at this level, and you're going to make other people miserable. I just want to tell you, she had 4 jobs since she left me. She can't keep a job because she didn't learn. And the onlookers that saw that were looking to see how were we going to address that. And what did I just get done telling them? I don't tolerate, right? She broke a hospital policy, but not blatantly. So I could work with her and help her, but she didn't want that. So then you're going to come to Crossroads. I love this. The Scarecrow is my absolute favorite in The Wizard of Oz, and Ray Bolger for the Scarecrow. Dorothy gets to the Crossroads, and she's like, what am I going to do? You are going to be at Crossroads very soon when you graduate, right? Where are you going to go? You're going to have a lot of different job offers. You're going to have a lot of different opportunities. But what does your heart tell you that you want to do? That's what you need to follow. And you know what? It may be that you move out of state and go to Mayo Clinic and go out of Pennsylvania. Might be that. But you know what? That's okay if that makes you happy. Because maybe you'll come back. And to embarrass you, good, maybe you'll stay, David. You have to follow your dream and what you want and find the people that help you get there. And if you notice, the Scarecrow says you could go this way or that way. He doesn't say you have to go this way or you have to go that way. And that's what a good mentor does. A good mentor will talk to you and help you understand the multiple options that you have so that you can talk yourself through exactly what the experience is. And what I will tell you, your intuition is what really will drive you. When I came back from my master's here, Pat Hayner was one of my professors, and we had to take a test. Now, I had not been in school for years. So we take this test, and it's about what drives you. And some people had their brain drives them, this drives them, and here's mine. My gut drives me. So everybody laughing, ha, I said, oh, well, whatever. So we went around, and Pat Hayner said, there's no right answer, but your gut will never steer you wrong. So think about that. When a patient doesn't quite look right, when you know something is not quite right, your gut or your intuition. And when you move to this crossroad, when you leave Villanova, you may be leaving the walls of Villanova behind, but maybe you'll be fortunate to be invited back because some of you in this room will have a job like mine, have an opportunity like mine to come back and speak to the students. And I think, that's one of the biggest honors and my favorite things to do is to speak to the students. I volunteer a lot of my time with the student nurses because I think to be able to even say one thing that you take away from this lecture today, that to me makes me feel like a success as a leader. Even if the only thing you remember is what year The Wizard of Oz was debuted. That's okay with me. It's still something you learned, and it's something that you'll bring back to your daily life. So this Scarecrow, this person is your first friend. Your mentor at work, maybe your new mentor, may be your first friend. It may be that there's a class of you going. We used to have the Gateway program at Penn, and a class of them went together and they worked on projects together and they really helped to socialize them. Penn had a really great program. I'm not fortunate to have that at Einstein Montgomery because I have a small community hospital. But they're going to give you answers, but hopefully they're going to ask you questions and they're going to allow you to ask questions. When I interview somebody, I learn more from this person that's interviewing with me by the questions they ask than by the answers they give. Anybody can remember the answer. What kind of leader are you? I'm a transformational leader. What do you want to do? I want to help people. Oh, your mission is blah, blah, blah. Okay, great, I get that. But tell me how you live it. And ask me questions. Ask me what I'm going to do for you, because I don't usually tell that. I usually wait because I want people to be able to feel comfortable. I have an open door policy. People come in my office for every little thing. Doesn't matter to me. That's important. It's important for the nurses that when they see the chief nurse on the floor, it's not like, oh, what is she doing up here and what did I do wrong? You want them to say, oh, AnnMarie's here, we want to show her something. And that's really that's the environment that we want. And that's what you want, wherever it is that you're going to work. So I love this saying. It says, how can you talk if you haven't got a brain? Oh, some people without brains do an awful lot of talking. My grandfather, who used to run the maintenance department here, told me I got 2 ears and 1 mouth, and that's so I can listen more than I talk. I'm still learning on that, just saying. So then you meet the next person, your Tin Man, and the Tin Man is all about honesty and heart and love and what we bring to nurses. We give 150% of ourselves. Sometimes we may give 200% of ourselves. And it reminds us, this Tin Man should remind us of our conviction. Things are going to happen. One of our newest nurses, she's been out of school. She'll be out a year this May. I happened to have the pleasure of working with her grandmother years back. She was taking care of a patient on one of the med-surg units who was 102 years old. And the patient didn't want anything extra done for them. And the patient just died. I happened to be making my rounds and I saw her and I said, Britt, what's up? She goes, oh, AnnMarie, my patient died. I said, well, weren't they lucky to have you for their nurse? And she looked at me and she said, really? I said, you know, there's not many people in this life. Only 7% of the population have the privilege of helping somebody on to the next world. I said, and for her to have somebody like you there, how fortunate she is. How fortunate she was. I said, tell me how it felt to take care of her. So I said to the charge nurse, cover her assignment for a minute. I'm going to take her over here. We're going to chat. So we chatted, and she talked about talking with this woman, and that really that morning when she came in, that she could see the woman started having chain strokes, agonal respirations, and the family was there. And I said, is the daughter in there now? I said, yeah, let's go in. I said, let's go in and talk to the daughter. She goes, I don't. I said, let's go in. So I went in. And I said to the daughter, I am so sorry about the loss of your mother. I'm hoping that we made her passing pleasant. And I said, I am so proud of Brittany. She's one of our new nurses. And weren't you fortunate to have her? And she said, oh my goodness, yes, we were. Now, that simple interaction turned that girl's horrible day, right, into something like, wow, look what I've done. And how fortunate that family was. So, of course, I have to text her grandmother and say, listen, I'm not giving you HIPAA names, but I want to just tell you Britt had her first death today. So just touch base with her. So the next day she came in and she goes, and you called my gram, and my gram had this for me and that. And that's what we have to do. We have to support people. But beside that, things are going to happen and you're going to make mistakes. And you have to remember that what brings you into this and how are you going to take care of yourself? And that's where we're going to get into the line with a little bit of courage next. And the heart guy says, a heart is not judged by how much you love, but by how much you are loved by others. And I will tell you, the life of one patient that you touch, you probably touch at least 50 people just with that one patient, because you touch every member of their family, because they talk about the nurse. That is, and again, that's a wonderful privilege. So, another trivia. Who was cast as the original Tin Man? All right. Now, there's two answers to this. Really, who was really cast was Ray Bolger, who was the Scarecrow, but he didn't want to wear that makeup, and he liked the part of being a dancer with the Scarecrow better. So they let him move to the Scarecrow. So the next person was, now do you all know the Beverly Hillbillies? Yeah? Okay. Because we gave a lecture one time and we talked about Dick Clark dying, and everybody's going, who's Dick Clark? I'm like, oh, Lord, I really am getting old. So Buddy Ebsen was on the Beverly Hillbillies. He was the original Tin Man. He also was, what is this, Barnaby Jones was another TV show in the 70s and 80s. He was the original Tin Man, but he had an allergic reaction to the paint, so he couldn't be it. So that's when they gave it to the other guy. All right, and here he is. Again, there's your little dog. But you have to have courage to stand up. When I tell you you're going to make a mistake, you are. It's not if, but when. And you're not going to make it on purpose, but because the reason that you're going to make a mistake is sometimes we're set up for that. The systems that are there have not, the electronic systems have not caught up with our practice. And it's really hard to translate our practice into the electronic record. When we first got electronic records, with the IT guy came and he's talking all about it, he's using all this IT language. I don't know what in the world he's talking about. So I'm looking, the nurses are looking, I'm like, okay, he needs to understand that we don't understand him. So how can I do this? So I said, hey, Andy, I get what you're saying, but tell me, how does all of this interact with the integumentary system? And he's going, what? What? He's looking through the papers, right? And the nurses are like, oh my God, AnnMarie. I said, yeah, the integumentary system. Everyone's integumentary system is going to interact with this computer. What? Really, really, what? Well, I don't have it written down. So I said, okay, Andy, I'm going to give you a hint. It's your skin, all right? That's your integument. But here's the thing. I'm talking that language, you're talking that language, and we're not meeting. We got to meet in the middle. You need to give me IT for dummies when we're, talking about, clinical stuff and how to move this computer forward. You all, if I was working with you on the team, I would love it, because you would probably all have a great interaction with that record. I go down and I take care of the patient. I go, I will do whatever I need, but you have to document, done by the chief nurse, because I can't figure out how to get in that record fast enough. It makes me crazy, it makes me nuts. But you all have that. You can translate the knowledge that you have and help us. And you have to have the courage to step up. And if you see something that can be done a little differently, step up and tell people. Don't be afraid to be wrong. And hopefully, you're not going to go and say, well, I'm a Villanova grad and I learned it this way and this is how we need to do it. No. You're going to have a really nice way about you, and you're going to say, wow, it's interesting that you do this way. A few hospitals that I worked with when I was in school, we did this. Have you ever tried that? Or can we try that? Or do you do that here? There's plenty of ways to make that happen. And when you fail, and when you make those mistakes, you're going to be your toughest critic. Everybody else is going to forgive you. We're going to forgive you, trust me. We all have made those mistakes. You're going to have to remember to forgive yourself. We're putting a program in place called, you all know what the second victim is? Second victim is patient falls. The patient's a first victim. The nurse that was caring for that patient and what he or she feels after having that patient fall, because maybe they couldn't get there fast enough, or maybe they forgot to put the fall alarm on, or maybe the patient just fell. They're going to feel bad about it. And so they're a second victim. Or they have the patient that died, like Britt, okay? She's going to relive that. And you're all going to have that happen. But how do you support yourself? And we're going to put this second victim program in place, and I'm excited about doing that. So courage doesn't always roar. Sometimes courage is that quiet voice at the end of the day that tells you, we'll try again tomorrow. It's okay not to get it right the first time. And here he says, and sometimes those bullies that are out there have no courage at all. Because why do you think they're doing that? Because you represent something new and bright and wonderful and exciting. And you're thrilled to be out there. And I'll tell you, every day that I put my foot on the floor of that hospital, I have that same thrill and excitement about what it is I do. And if you don't, then the one wonderful thing about nursing is there's another area that you can get into. You can get into the insurance line of it. You can get into the case management. You can move from the ED to NICU. You can move from the ED to hospice. You can move from hospice to med-surg. There's so many different things. So if you feel yourself starting to just not really feel right with where you are, think about that. I hate the word burnout. I'm on a campaign to get rid of that word, because I think what we need to do is teach people resilience. How do you teach them resilience and self-care so that they don't get to that stage that they feel like they want to give it up? So then there's going to be more obstacles. And what you have to watch out for here are those nurses that say, do you have to work 2 weekends in a row? Do you have to work the holiday weekend and you have to work your weekend? Well, we have to do that too. You should complain about that. So then what happens is you're throwing somebody else's cannonball, okay? If it doesn't matter, watch those people. They're going to try to mentor you, kind of try to bring you under their wing, and they're going to tell you all the good stuff, but they're going to have you throwing cannonballs, and you're going to say, why do I have to work this weekend and my weekend? Well, unfortunately, you're in nursing, and we have crazy weekend schedules, and that's what we do, and some of us did that while our kids were little every weekend, so we didn't have to put them in daycare. But that's how it is, and this has been going on for a long time. So you're going to go throw this cannonball about working the weekends, and this person that told you about it's going to say, oh, I don't mind, I do it all the time. Did any of you ever meet somebody like that? You throw what the issue is out and they go, oh, no, it doesn't bother me. I was just mentioning it. I didn't tell her to say anything. Yeah, right. So be careful of those. And how do you overcome them? You overcome them by listening to your inner voice and knowing what's important to you and what's going to make you successful. And by finding your mentor and someone with a good relationship that you can talk those things through. And then don't make me release those flying monkeys. One of my staff members gave me a sign, don't make her release the flying monkeys. And then somebody else gave me something for my door that says, nobody gets in to see the wizard, nobody know how. But I think that's fun that they give me those kinds of things. It's really cool. But the flying monkeys are there because they're everything that you fear. Think about the biggest fear that you have. I know what that is right now, is going to be that you're going to flunk your boards. And guess what? Some of the best nurses that I work with flunk their boards. Because guess what? They take them again, and they're fine. It's kind of like those 2-year-olds that aren't potty trained, God forbid, because guess what? They go to kindergarten and they're potty trained. And they all catch up eventually. So it happens. If you do, there's a reason. Don't worry about it. You'll take the test again. But when they're released, when people release them, they release them to frighten you, to scare you. And why do they do that? What are the motives for doing that? But what happens when that witch dies in the movie? Those flying monkeys are like, woohoo! They're happy. That's kind of like when you unfortunately get to work with a bad manager. I teach in the graduate school at another university, and we talk about poor leadership. People don't typically leave a job unless their husband's relocating or they're relocating, or it's a phenomenal opportunity, to go to the Mayo Clinic or whatever, or the NICU in Pittsburgh. But what they leave is the manager, because they just don't like how their leader or that person is mentoring them. And the wonderful thing about most of your generation is that I'm a baby boomer. So I used to get called and say, my maiden name was Young. Young, you got to come in early. Nurse called out sick. See you, bye. You didn't even get a chance to say no. And we did it. That was baby boomers. That's how we still are. We have to work extra shifts. Somebody has to stay, this, that. Your generation, you'll do it. But if I need you, like I needed one of the guys to work an extra shift for me tonight in the ICU because we got an extra heart patient. So I said, Jess, listen, if I give you off Monday, because you're off Sunday, you can have a long Easter weekend, will you work for me tonight? Yeah, sure, I'll do it, Papa, no problem. You work on a really good work-life balance, and that's important. We can learn about that from you. And how do you do that? Am I doing okay on time? So don't make me release those flying monkeys. And then how about when the witch throws fire? That's somebody who deliberately derails you. I was a brand new nurse, hadn't even passed my boards. and I was doing EKG. Now, back then, the way you did EKGs was one lead at a time. They didn't all go on at one time, and there was a little machine that had a little ticker tape, and you push the little button, and 1, 2, and you marked each lead, 3. You had to move the ball to each place on the chest, and if you didn't clean the balls out, they got schmutz in the balls. It was awful. So I'm doing the EKG, and it's the night shift. I'm the night shift nurse, and the 3 to 11 nurse comes in and says, "Is there anything I can do to help you?" Now, she was like not one of the people who I wanted as my mentor. I said, "Yeah, could you just let the doc know that this patient's having a heart attack, and am I?" I said, I'm at V2, and the STs are up. Now, I didn't have the whole EKG, but I saw 2 was up, 3 was up, and now here I'm in lead 2, V2. I said, "Okay." She goes out to the doc, and she says, now this doc now is the chief at Geisinger Medical Center, John Skingileski. And she goes out and she goes, "John, she doesn't know what she's doing in there, but that patient's having a heart attack. You better get in there." Now, I am at the bed, and I'm about ready to, like, scream because I'm like, "What? I told you what the patient..." But I'm thinking, nope, be quiet because there's the patient in front of me. So I'm finishing with the patient. He comes in. He squeezes my arm, and he says, "Get over her." And I just thought, oh, he knows. Whew. All right. That validation meant a lot. And there's going to be people that try to do those kinds of things to just deliberately derail you. Find your center. Find your home. That person will help you realign, and get rid of that fear and whatever. How are we doing, Ann, on time? 6:45? Okay. Oh, I can see the clock right there. And what about poppies? They're those silent but deadlies. That's my husband with them. But what are the warning signs? But who's there to help you with that? Again, Glinda, they're there to help you along the way. The first mentors that you had are there to help you to move and to become better. And then, that's what I told you, they have a sign on my door. Nobody gets in, no way, no how. That's the gatekeeper. "Oh, no, you can't go see AnnMarie." Like, really? What do you mean I can't go see AnnMarie? Any nurse that works in our hospital can come see me anytime. They text me, they email me. That's important. People use that as power. "Oh, no, you can't talk to the manager. I'll talk to her for you." No, you can give your own message. You can deliver your own message. I had to learn the hard way. You know, my father used to say, "I had to walk uphill to school in the snow, both ways with no shoes." Yeah, Dad, you live in Florida, right? We got it. You know? But that's the thing. That's how it is. So this is what you need to get through. You need determination. Well, you got that. You got this far. You took your test. You're in here in this nice weather. You're determined to do well, to go move on, and to make a difference for yourself and for everybody else. You need perseverance like the Wright brothers. You got to come back and try it again. How many of you got a Foley in the first time? Oh, you can't say Foley, catheter. How many of you got a catheter in the first time? Urinary catheter. Not everybody, right? You don't. Guess what? How many of you got IV in the first time? You don't. Sometimes you don't. You're lucky if you do. You're lucky, and if you don't, you learn. Go back. Try again. Persevere. You'll learn. And then there is going to be a wizard out there that thinks they know everything. They're blustery. They just, but why, again, are they that way? They're typically your bullies. And if you know anything about bullying, I do a lovely lecture with the Wizard of Oz on bullying. It's really about stifling other people. How many of you saw Wicked? I love Wicked. That is a totally new difference of, bully. Because who's bullied? Elphaba, right? And why is she bullied? Do you all know? Because she was bright and smart and challenged the status quo and knew every single spell in that book, just intrinsically. Well, some of you are going to be that shining star where you go. And there's going to be somebody else that used to be the shining star, and they're going to be a little bit annoyed. Not me. I want you. I want the shining star. Because you know what? The better that you are, the better your mentor's going to look, the better your team's going to look. They always say a mom is only as happy as her saddest child, right? Well, the same thing should be, I'm only as happy as my saddest nurse. And, I was at a CNO meeting the other day, and they were talking about what keeps CNOs up at night. People are talking about staffing, the budget, the money, the this and that. I'm thinking, I must be in a different world. What keeps me up at night is the safety and the sanity of my staff. I want to be sure that they're safe, and I want to be sure that they feel like they were able to give the kind of nursing care that they gave. Yeah, staffing budget, that's important, but to me, if you have that, you've got really the whole thing moving in the right direction. When you're a leader, the people that are going to follow you, are they going to blindly follow you? Or are they going to follow you, because you learned great leadership skills and you know what your strengths are and what your opportunities are and what your ambitions are to move forward in the world? Who was the part of the wizard originally written for? No takers? I can tell this is a young crowd. W.C. Fields. Do you know who W.C. Fields is? All right, that's who it was written for. So then you have the witch, and I always think the witch is a friend, because you know what? I would much rather have somebody come right at my face and tell me what it is that the issue is than come behind my back and stab me with it. Now, I hope that they come and tell me respectfully, but sometimes they don't, because the work that we do is passionate work. We give a lot of ourselves. And the other night they had a couple of bad things going on in the ER. When I went in the morning, they were just jumped on me. You don't know what happened last night, blah, 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 blah. And I just thought, okay, let them just talk. I said, okay. And what happened when you called me? Oh, you gave us divert for an hour. I said, was that helpful? Yeah, thanks a lot. I said, okay, now, if that happens again, what can I do to help? They go, oh, nothing, we just wanted to tell you about it. I'm like, okay, that's fine. So, you know, somebody said to me, one of the other leaders was with me from another, the other VPs, and she said, they shouldn't talk to you like that. What? They weren't talking to me, AnnMarie Papa, the person. They were talking to my badge, the chief nursing officer, and they were mouthing off, and they were upset, and they were concerned, and they were worried, and they felt better. That's all. It was not disrespectful. I didn't find it that way. And you want people who are going to challenge you and give you friendly fire. And friendly fire is kind of telling you, these are the things that I see wrong. Like I always say when the Joint Commission's coming, if you're an ER nurse, call the ICU nurses down to look at your unit, because they'll find every darn thing wrong, and you'll be so happy. Because guess what? You'll check it off and fix those things. If you're an ER nurse, if you're an ICU nurse, get an ER nurse. Because there's different worlds. You don't see your own dust bunnies, and you want that friendly fire. And there's that witch, that little old witch there. So let's talk about Toto. This is your family. This is your best friend. This is your confidant. This might be somebody that's not even a nurse in nursing school. When you go out and you're talking at your party and you're talking about some of the crazy things that happen in nursing school, the people that aren't nurses, do they look at you like you have 10 heads? Like I can remember being somewhere one time with my husband and a couple people around, and we were telling a story about some craziness that occurred. And somebody said, well, that patient could have died. And we turned around and said, well, he did. And then everybody's like, oh my God, no, the nurses all laughed. Now see how you laugh? We have an odd sense of humor. It's kind of like that circle. What is that movie, The Fockers, right? We have a circle that we have an odd sense of humor. But you need that. But you can't go out in the world and tell those crazy stories, Same lawyers have the same kind of craziness. But don't forget about Toto. See him? He's there all over the place. He is like that constant that you have, your best friend. It's like coming home after a bad day and getting a warm cup of cocoa. Although today, you don't want hot cocoa. It's nice and warm outside. Today, you want to go out and sit in the sun. And I'm keeping you from that. I got it. It's kind of like when you're the first speaker between you and the speaker and lunch. And how about this, Dorothy? He says, if you forget about him, he says, dear Dorothy, hate Oz, chew the shoes, find your own way home. And that's what happens if you forget about your good friends. They don't like it. They're not going to be happy. So when you're out there, know that that witch is melting. I think the bullying has gotten a little less since the years, when I graduated. I hope. I think that at least it's more in the forefront. I'm proud to say that I was on the emergency nursing board when the very first groundbreaking study came out in 2006 about workplace violence and bullying and the issues that are occurring. So, and we continue to talk about that, and we continue to say, how can we make things better for the next generation, because that's what our job is. And don't forget the obvious that's there. Here she says, The wicked old witch at last is dead. And I don't mean to tell you that your experiences that you have are wicked, but they're experiences that are going to make you grow. They're going to be experiences that help you really define your dreams. And you are going to make mistakes. It's okay. I flunked sociology and I'm still allowed to speak to you, and I still have all letters after my name for being a fellow in the Academy of Nursing and emergency nursing. When I was a senior in high school, the nun said to me, Miss Young, I played the cello, Miss Young, you are never going to amount to anything. You don't pay attention. Oh, sister, I got all A's. What do you mean I don't pay attention? Well, probably I was playing, having a good time, not studying. That's why I flunked, right? About, I guess I was working at Chestnut Hill, so it was probably in the early 90s. So it would have been about almost 15, 20 years later. Guess who comes in? Because the Sisters of St. Joseph had their little convent right around the corner from Chestnut Hill Hospital. Sister Giovanni, that was her name. She was the patient. They go, oh, AnnMarie, we got. I said, oh, who is it? So, oh, I know who she is. So let me just get my little thing, my white coat, because I was the director then. Come back, I said, sister, you remember me? She looks at me, she goes, well, you're a little older. I'm like, oh, really? Thanks, you know. She goes, but that wasn't your name. Didn't you play that cello right there? And I said, yes, I did, sister. Do you remember what you told me? That I wouldn't amount to anything. Well, I just want you to know that I'm the director here of this year. She goes, well, I told you that so you would challenge me because I know how you are. I said, oh, okay, I got it, sister. You just never know who you're going to meet back in your life. And it's a great thing. Lynn Desolitz taught me here when I went for my master's. Dean wasn't here. She came in 78. I graduated in 77. Rose O'Driscoll was one of my, I was so fortunate. I had Gloria Donnelly, Rose O'Driscoll, Zane Wolfe. I had so many great instructors. Some still are not with us, you know, Terry Christian and Elaine McCauley. But I was fortunate. You are just as fortunate because Villanova always has great instructors. And they really want you to do well. And when I said that about how Penn students are cerebral, but really Villanova students understand the nuts and bolts, you do. You'll catch up eventually. So which do you need? These are all the things we talked about. Confidence, determination. You have to have your vision. It has to be clear. You have to know that you want to graduate, you want to move on, you want to make a difference. You need to have compassion. You need to have a little bit of empathy. And you need to have, most importantly, your dream. And that dream, I hope, is to graduate. And that dream, I hope, is to make a difference in the world. And that dream, I hope, is to take the Villanova message out there. Now, last year, I had a lovely picture here at the end, talked about teamwork of the Villanova basketball team. Let me tell you, here's my little pin. I had it on upside down like this because I was in great distress this year. And one of the docs I work with was from North Carolina. So last year, I was so excited, wore all my pins, my banners, whatever. This year, I had to wear a North Carolina hat. Because they won, he was excited, so I had my little pin on upside down. I said I was in distress, great distress. You need the brains like the Scarecrow. You need the heart like the Tin Man. You need the courage like the lion. And you need Dorothy's determination and all the friends that you're going to meet along the way. Because if you don't have friends, you're not going to get anywhere. Your success believes with a belief in yourself, and I hope you have that belief. You need to have you need to reflect on the things that you've done and what you can do better. A good perspective, and I hope that you write reflective papers because I think they're really helpful. But know that it's who you meet along the way. This says it's not where you go, but it's who you meet along the way that are going to open the doors for you. And there's tons of Villanova graduates out there to drag you along like that little Scarecrow there. We want to help you. We want to make it better for you. We want you to succeed. See it? Fun. We want Villanova. We want Villanova to be the top. Now, this is a good question, because normally I have my little high heels on, but not today. It was too nice out and I had to run. What was the original color of Dorothy's shoes? Now, you probably know that. Come on. Silver. You were right. But the silver slippers didn't work out well. Plus, they didn't look good on Technicolor. So that was her original color, silver. But they made them red, and I'm so happy they did. So some strategies for success: know yourself. Confidence, determination. We talked about the wisdom that you'll get with the brains, the authentic leadership. Find authentic leaders and be authentic to yourself and to the profession. Commitment to action and really building a great team. How do you be, like we used to have a nurse that said, be a thinker, not a stinker. Because there's going to be days that your unit's going to be short. There's going to be days that there's challenges. And the people that rise to the top, anybody can steer the boat when the waters are calm. Anybody can lead an organization when there's plenty of staff and lots of money and all kinds of resources. But when the waters are rough, when the staffing is tough, when 20 patients roll in the ED at the same time, when ICU has to move all these patients out, that takes great leadership and it takes great determination. And you all can do it and you all will do it. So remember, as you go out there, that there's no place like home. Oops, I went too fast. And Villanova, when I look at the campus, when I come here in 1977, our office and our nursing school was in St. Mary's Hall. We had to go under the railroad tracks. It was like a little hole in the wall. And I see the wonderful building and thing that Louise and you all built here. It's fabulous. I mean, you have so much out there. That's Helene. She got the medal too. Helene Moriarty, Dr. Moriarty. And that's myself with a couple other people. We got the medal the 1 year. I think that's really a wonderful thing that, they recognize us. So it's your dream and your future. And you are going to be the nurse that you want to be if you allow yourself the ability to dream. And remember that every failure, every mishap is a brick in that yellow brick road that you have to success. We have a couple minutes for questions. I hope, I've changed it up a little bit from last year because I kind of wanted to just go into leadership and help you understand how to think differently and move in a different direction. I have an opportunity for questions. I'm here. Thank you very much. It was a pleasure.